My name is Dr. Stephen Jones. As an organizational psychologist and executive coach, I love to study what allows people to bring out the best in themselves and others. So join me as I welcome top leaders to uncover the future of leadership. Welcome to The Leadership Secret, where top leaders reveal insights earned, wisdom gained, and transformational moments that have defined and redefined their leadership. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Jones, and today's guest is a transformational leader committed to forging democratic, reciprocal, and equitable campus community partnerships with focus areas in housing, poverty, economic development, education, social justice, fair trade, and microfinance, as well as diversity and inclusion. A leader who works to deepen the breadth and depth of community engagement through the USD community in order to address critical social issues through the beneficially mutual exchange of knowledge and resources. Yes, the leader I am talking about is my friend, Chris Nayve. How you doing, Chris?
Dr. Jones. Man, it's good to be here with you.
Thank you. Glad to have you, man. Absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing.
Chris is the Associate Vice President for Community Engagement. And in this episode, Chris and I will strive to uncover a few secrets of the future of effective leadership. So let me tell you a little bit more about our guest today. Chris Nayve was born in the Philippines and joined his parents in Los Angeles when he was 3 years old. As I mentioned earlier, he is the Associate Vice President for Community Engagement at the Karen and Tom Mulvaney Center for Community Awareness and Social Action at the University of San Diego. He has become widely known as a recognized leader in the field of community engagement for his ability to forge new and long-term campus community partnerships in the areas of housing, poverty, economic development, and education. Chris has worked with the U.S. Department for Housing and Urban Development to support university investment in their communities. Partnered with community organizations in New Orleans for some 17 years. Chris was involved in cultural exchange efforts post-Hurricane Katrina. He and his staff and students at USD intentionally managed meaningful and reciprocal partnerships, resulting in sustained engagement for long after the immediate wake of Katrina. Chris has been named one of 50 American Leaders of Change by the National Urban Fellows. Chris was the California Campus Compacts recipient of the 2016 Richard E. Cohn Award for Excellence and Leadership in Cultivating Community Partnerships in Higher Education. I'm telling y'all, this brother has been connecting and doing the work and doing more than talk, but putting that work into action. He was honored to receive the inaugural Nadine Cruz Community Engaged Professional Award from Campus Contact, an award named after his mentor and friend. He serves on the board for the Urban League of San Diego and the International Association for Research on Service Learning and Community Engagement. Prior to USD, Chris served in the United States Navy with the Submarine Force and with the United Nations in Bosnia during the Bosnian War, also known as a corpsman. He loves baseball, especially the Dodgers, and wanted to make sure that I said that, y'all. I'm just going to say, right? And enjoys cooking for his wife and 2 boys. Chris loves traveling with his family. I'm so excited to have just awesome conversation with you, Chris. I view you as one of the top leaders in San Diego, and clearly you have been recognized as that one of those leaders, both locally and nationally. Thank you for coming on to the Leadership Podcast.
Dr. Jones, it's a privilege, man. When you put it all like that, it sounded like it was easy.
I know it was dedication and a lot of commitment. Very much so.
Privileged to be here. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, so Chris, let's talk about what is your passion for leadership and making an impact. Let's start that.
You know, it was accidental. You know, I think it started actually, you know, and I'll credit talking to Michael earlier that it was my military experience. Right. And why I say accidental was because, you know, I was in high school with no plan. And unlike careers that people know, you can say, I'm going to be a dentist, a doctor, a teacher, engineer. You know, with my title now, that wasn't something I strove for.
Right.
And also just this idea that I would even be in higher ed this long. You know, I'm coming up on almost 3 decades doing this work. And so, you know, leadership was definitely accidental. And it started when I was in the military, because prior to that, I didn't really have any formal leadership. And even looking back, you know, I had no positions in high school or those things. I played sports, but, you know, this was the 80s. So it was like a little bit of the wild, wild west. Things weren't as structured. So I barely made it out, but I knew academically I could excel. It was just I needed kind of a different scenario. And, you know, as soon as I'll never forget it. It was 1990, summer of 1990, first day in boot camp, and my last name is Nayve. Some people think it looks like Navy. The company commander says, "Who's this Navy guy?" And I said, "Excuse me, sir, it's Nayve." Never corrected drill instructor. That's a leadership, you know,
faux pas, right?
Number one.
Yes.
So, you know, he commenced to say push-ups forever. And from there, it was wild, because then he asked me to have a leadership role. There were like 3 or 4 leadership roles. And I was one of the leaders of this group of, I don't know, 80 to 100 of us who really didn't know what we were doing. So it was a brilliant move that he saw something. I wouldn't have known what it was. And then from there, it was just like, you know, showing up, following through.
Yeah.
It's not even that, you know, it's interesting, the wiser you become and the more experience you get, you realize like it's things like just following through, being on time, looking folks in the eye and saying, I got you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's, I think, even though, you know, then it was probably more performance oriented. It wasn't, you know, more interpersonal or just who I was. It was like, this person is, you know, doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think that definitely gave me the idea of, which I was missing in high school, right? I didn't have that. And I was young. Yeah, I was so young, my mom had to, it's embarrassing, right? Like, I'm 17. Yeah. She had to sign the papers to go to the military. And so, yeah, it started there. It's just evolved ever since.
Well, I so appreciate that, because I'm hearing foundation building, right? And I'm hearing, like you said, the what's the root of building trust? You show up on time, you follow through, right? How is that foundation like supported your development throughout your career, if you will, as a leader?
The idea of holding true to your commitments and showing up on time and really listening to folks to hear what their passions are and kind of what they want to do. I mean, I would say it's a bedrock, you know, cornerstone. It served me well, you know, all these years. It's not the same for everybody. You know, everybody has different set of values and purpose and kind of approach. But for me, most definitely, and it applies not just in a formal leadership role, right? I mean, even the family role you have and kind of trying to role model that to my 2 boys, you know, and then to my partner, Christina, making sure that I follow through. And so I can't remember who said it, but it's like the small things are big things.
Yeah.
And I just try to keep it simple, because I'm an overthinker, a deep overthinker. I mean, you want to talk about rumination.
Come on.
If my mind at night could like power your iPhone, I could power several backups.
Got it.
So I do have to just try to breathe through it, kind of, what got me here? Those things still relevant.
Love it. Love it. Love it. It's so good because what popped in my head was like leadership throughout life,
Yes.
right?
Right.
That says those same things applied across the board.
Frost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'm going to take something from your playbook. I mean, if we're talking professionally, this idea of people having formal titles,
Yes.
but not looking behind you to see if anyone's following,
That's right.
and, leadership, yes, it's taught now. So, of course, there's some science behind it. But to me, leadership is lived.
Yeah.
You got to live that and make sure that you're connecting with folks. And, for me, trying to be congruent to my purpose and what that looks like, and trying not to have a front stage and a backstage self, just really trying to be in alignment.
That's so good.
Is my work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull out the first leadership secret, y'all. Leadership is lived.
Leadership is lived.
Right. And I hear that as
Yes.
it's not performative,
No.
right? And authenticity comes to mind.
It's hard as hell.
Yeah. Say
It's
more.
hard.
Say more.
Well, I also, the graduate, my professional background, working in DC, working in the military, achievement,
Yeah.
type A, lift yourself up by your bootstraps, and realizing like, actually, there's not a lot of playbook. And this generation is saying that's not good enough.
Yes.
And, I see some leaders white knuckle their leadership, try to just top down it. And, it's really not the best way to unlock what we're trying to do.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
The question would be, what are the skills that you have found to be helpful for leaders to either develop, right? And I would say master, to navigate that difficulty of leadership. And where have you seen folks get it wrong?
I heard somebody, and I can't remember who said it, but I really like what they said. They said, try to be a devout listener. Again, coming from your playbook, right? It used to be, wait, why am I talking?
Yeah.
Got 2 ears, 1 mouth.
That's right.
Proportionally, but leaders are so primed to jump in there, myself included.
Yeah.
That's our currency, our ideas, especially in higher education.
Yes.
So when I heard this idea of devout listening, that really struck me because I work for a faith-based institution. So this idea of, our relationship, regardless of how long I've known you, is sacred to me. And so I think that is something that has also served me well. It's a skill set that I think I wanted to develop. And, the beauty of it is just it's free. You just sit there and you try to listen without trying to respond and really just absorb it.
Yeah.
I think connected to that is try not to be defensive. Guilty. Big time.
Yeah.
But I breathe through it, And then, of course, deeper to me, there are some grounding and mindfulness practices that I think, as I've learned later in life, that are extremely important. I think the more you're at the leadership table, the problems become more complex. I mean, look what's happening in the world.
That's right.
There's no playbook. And I think where leaders get it wrong is that they try to apply things that may or may not have been effective previously to the situation.
Yeah.
And it may work. Rather than maybe saying, well, what do others think? Right? What do others think? So, I think that is, what's also kind of top of mind for me is just also showing up with no agenda. My work is in community engagement and this idea of reciprocal, relationships, relationship building. And part of that is like, can you just come to a community dinner and just be normal.
Yeah. versus putting on the pretense, the mask, the title, right?
No need. That'll go a long way.
Yes.
And it is wild to me that all those things are accessible, and that there's some leaders who, because of their orientation, can't, sit in that place. And I don't judge them because I think, they were taught a certain kind of leadership, or maybe actually not, right? Especially leaders who are now, in their third or fourth generation of work.
Yeah.
I think the leadership as a science is much more helpful.
Yeah.
Helping this generation of leaders kind of understand these traits and dispositions that are helpful. But, some folks got their titles just through longevity, sticking it out, and they did good work. But some of the other ways to really build relationships are pretty accessible.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I'm not stuck, but I'm ruminating on that concept of devout listener. Because to me, I've never heard it put that way before. That puts it almost on a spiritual plane, right? That says it's beyond a commitment; it's a commitment, right?
Right. Yeah, and why it helped unlock something for me.
Okay.
I like playing golf, and so golfers do something where it's like, let me get this feel, right? My right hand has to feel this certain way, right? And so when I heard that, it just helped unlock a feel, because devout is a word. You can't take that word lightly,
Right.
And so why I thought it was helpful was because it helped place presencing at the center of our conversation.
Yes.
And I think, again, maybe stemming from my earlier days, I grew up in LA. So you kind of sometimes just feel like a number,
Yep.
And, as you said in my intro, I was born in a different country, and how all that played into kind of like my orientation and running towards myself. This idea of being seen was really important for me. And so devout listening to me is like a way I can honor this gift of being in this space with you or whoever I'm in that space with, in a way that ensures that I'm not trying to formulate an answer or a response or a judgment.
Yes.
Yes. It doesn't always work.
That's right.
But I think when I heard somebody say that a couple of weeks ago, that really was powerful for me.
That's awesome.
And I try to apply it even at home and other places, again, as a feel. As just a feel. What do I need right now?
Yeah. I'm also flipping in my mind. You said it's accessible a couple of times, right? And that's taking me to, this don't cost nothing, right?
Yes. I mean, inflation's already crazy. No need to put a tariff on things that are free. My goodness.
Well, I think about it because I think many people think what it takes to be a good leader is outside of what they have access to.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Talk a little bit about that accessibility piece some more.
Yes. Well, the consequences of that is also imposter syndrome. Because if you don't have a traditional access to leadership, even though it's changing now, and I think that's a positive thing in terms of, new leadership models, which I really appreciate. But traditional leadership model was you put in your time, you go to school, you get the experience, and somehow you're platformed into a particular role.
Yes.
And then you just rinse, repeat, and all maybe some successes, but also a lot of, bad consequences of that model of leadership. And it also feels like for those folks who have not been at that particular table or that pathway, inaccessible. It could even be like, oh, that's not my experience. And so the only way I can get there, and maybe this is a little bit of a resistance because I'm an insider in higher ed. And sometimes it's like, oh, some of the things we're teaching, which are really valuable and important, some of this, well, actually currently even is now online. is free,
Yes.
you know? And so we need to embrace that as not as something that's a competitive disadvantage to academia, but actually something that we, uh, in secondary education need to run towards, right? It's like, what are the other models and how do we ensure that everyone's lived experience is part of this journey? And I think that's why I go to this idea of accessibility so much, is because if folks see that there's a path for myself, then sky's the limit.
Sure.
Again, like, I know my story isn't unique. I wasn't supposed to graduate from high school. I mean, no joke.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, going into my 11th grade year, my mom, so back in the day, um, not everything was electronic. So the way they let your parents know you didn't go to school was they called you, right?
Right.
So you just had to time the phone call.
Got it?
And all was good. Well, one time my mom got the phone call. And not only that, it was like, yeah, your son's missed some school. They were like, when he's in school, he gets good grades. We just got to get him in the chair.
Uh-huh.
And and in fact, they said, he's not slated to graduate on time. And I mean, he could do some. And my mom was like, we got to game plan this. My mom was like, we need to sit down. And that's not necessarily the relationship I had with my mom at that time.
Okay.
So that I appreciated her taking that approach. The neighborhood kids also used to call her Rambo.
I'm getting the picture. I'm getting the picture.
So this idea that she took an educator approach, not a warrior approach, was really important. And they were like, you are not going to graduate on time with your class, but that's okay. Just do your summer school and all these. And she's like, no, he's going to graduate.
Come on.
I busted it out.
Come on.
Graduated with my class.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, once I just needed to get in the seat,
Yeah.
then the sky's the limit. And I think that's the case for lots of folks. I think we've made a lot of progress in terms of pathways for young people to figure out what it is that lights them up.
That's right.
Could be 2 and 4 year schools or a different career.
That's right.
And a lot of energy, a lot of good folks that you've had on the podcast, who are committed to this particular work. And accessibility is still important because it's still pretty expensive to go to school.
Yeah. I'm thinking about and wondering, where do you fall on the continuum of leaders are born versus leaders are made?
I used to coach baseball. Noah's baseball. Noah's 19 now.
Absolutely right.
And I played baseball growing up. Loved the sport, as you shared in my intro. Coached him for many years. And a mentor coach said, of the 12, 13 kids, you're going to get 2 or 3 that just have that skill. You can't teach speed. You can teach how to get quicker, but you can't teach it naturally, right? Then you're going to have a couple kids who literally will pick daisies. And the rest, there's some possibilities there. So that's where I fall in the continuum. When I was in the military, our graduating class or the company or whatever it was about 1,000 or so.
Okay.
I received the Honor Man Award for my graduating class. Kid who didn't, like a year previous, was not slated to graduate. So my mom and, my parents' family, very proud.
Very good.
And I came out of boot camp weighing 135 pounds. I probably grew a little bit, but I was still, 5'10", 5'11", undersized.
Got it.
Some of the and I had never really met folks from the country.
Okay.
And now I understood what it meant, like folks who came from the country who had been working on the farm.
Okay.
So I was undersized, overwhelmed, and still found a path to success, right? And so I think this idea of natural versus, learn versus how do you achieve it, or if maybe you're not born with all the skills. I think is something that is, again, also, you know, I'm probably on the middle of the
Yeah.
continuum.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, for the folks who may not be aware of the honor man and what that means and is, talk a little bit about
Yeah.
what that acknowledgement and award was.
Right. Yeah. It was wild. Again, I was 17
Mm-hmm.
in boot camp. I didn't turn 18 till I was in submarine school. So I was still young.
Mm-hmm.
And it was essentially an honor that the leadership, all the drill instructors, placed on one recruit.
Wow.
For that entire group. Again, several hundred. I think there was 900 or 1,000. And I look back on it, and I don't necessarily know how I got it back then because, you go through an interview and you're evaluated just on your performance or the whole time, are in boot camp. And so, there were a lot of folks who were born with physical skill. My mindset at the time was like, the military is all physical. I didn't realize kind of the mental side of what it meant. And I just found a way. Found a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, my wife and I have lots of conversations about, are you born with it or can you learn it?
Yeah.
And my experience has been, you can learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Let's talk a little bit about some of the mindset, skill sets, behaviors that you have learned, seen, and found important when engaging with community and building coalitions and partnerships, right? And I'm thinking about, for example, the type of leadership, mindset, skill sets, behaviors necessary in that arena. And just to contrast it versus like a turnaround company and a leader who has to do a turnaround, right?
Right. Well, John Loggins, who was like a brother to me and I worked with for a very long time. He and Esteban Del Rio, they both work at USD. Esteban Del Rio is a faculty. They wrote an article called The Practice of Joining. And the roots really are very similar to Durkheim's idea of like, I think it's like collective, this idea of like collective joy, right? So it's like you go to church, right? Singing, dancing. You go to a sporting event, strangers, you're high-fiving, whatever, right? That concept of collective joy and connection. It's this idea of joining. I earlier said, listening for sure. Because, obviously community members have often felt exploited by academia. So the idea of listening, without a doubt. But this idea of the practice of joining is, it's almost like a mindfulness practice. When I'm in New Orleans or when John's in Jamaica or our students or faculty are out in the community, we talk about this idea of, what are you bringing to the table and how do you unpack that so you can just be, and I'm saying this in an inarticulate way.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Be normal.
Yeah.
Can we go to happy hour or grab tea without an agenda?
Yes.
And it is so hard. It is so hard because time is a commodity.
Okay.
Right? Community folks been saying, we've been doing this work for generations. We can, and they can size you up quick. Are you here for the long haul or is this a transaction?
Yes.
So I think that's applicable in leadership because regardless of the time that you have, go into your car, you bump into somebody or whatever, you can't treat those interactions like transaction, those sacred moments. I don't always succeed. These are things that are aspirational, right? These are aspirational ideas that for me probably give me the most joy and things that I hope, I do a lot of work with our team. Just we have a new generation of folks and trying to encourage them in their work and role model that because that's really it. Because when I look back when, the S hits the fan, S always hits the fan.
Yes.
You got shorthand.
Yes.
Right? That's what Cornel West said when he visited USD. I think you were there. And he was like, the S always hits the fan. We got to know that we have each other's back on
That's right.
this, and that's showing up now.
That's right. That's right. In full transparency for our listening audience, Chris Nayve and I go way back. It was
Back in the day,
was it 90 or
95.
95?
Yep,
Was when we first met. Chris was an undergrad,
I was.
and I was an administrator in Res Life. And so the connection that you're seeing here and
Yes.
the references, and Chris and I both were involved in human relations workshops
Right.
at USD, where we brought student leaders for a weekend workshop
That's right.
on relating to each other. We
Yes.
called it human relations
That's what it
workshops.
was.
Absolutely.
People just needing to be seen. And I think
Yes.
why I sometimes resort to this idea of accessibility or
Yes.
something is free
Yes.
is because in academia, there's this process to get accepted.
Yeah.
And more power to folks
Yeah.
that go that route. You know, I encourage my sons to go that route. Our oldest son's in college, his first year, by the way.
Right on.
And so I think it's a noble path. And at the same time, what are some of the practices that we have that are in our toolkit
That's
that don't require folks to go through this hurdle, you know, where you can be most fully seen? That's why I go to, well, what's a way
Mm-hmm.
to be at the table,
Yeah.
to listen to folks, and to allow folks to be seen. And I think the flip side of that is maybe in the last few years, this kind of a leadership reflection is that I've embraced my role. You know, I remember it used to be like, you know, the man's taking this down. And it's like, now I'm the man.
Yes.
So I've embraced that. I said,
Yes.
okay, let me be transparent about
Yes.
what are the levers that I have.
That's right.
I don't have a lot of power, but I have some.
That's right.
How do we share that?
That's right.
How do we distribute it?
Excellent.
And how do I also unpack these ideas that I've had in the military or other ways where it was like, you know, the traditional leader has to have all the answers? Oh my gosh. The higher you go, and I always share this with, you know, folks on the team, there's no playbook for a lot of things. There just is not. You know?
It's so good. It's, to your point, it's part of why I get excited about this podcast, because there's no playbook.
There's none.
And so part of my goal is to interview leaders like yourself who have been living the playbook and who have seen the pitfalls, potholes, right, of not having a playbook or applying the playbook in a way that worked in the past, but not today, right? So I'm thinking about this idea of joining, as you talked about it, right? And I'm thinking about two things. One of our earlier guests, Nancy Maldonado, from who is the Chief Diversity Officer for Rady's Children, when we brought up the topic of imposter syndrome, she talked about how she believes that we have to focus on imposter systems instead of imposter syndrome.
That's powerful.
Right? Because the systems that, to your earlier point around the getting approved to come to the university, right? That's a system that is set up. I'm thinking about you were in terms of joining, right? There's faculty dining, right? There's the executive lounge to separate us from the lay folk, if you will, right?
Right.
And part of what I hear you saying with the joining then is, and even folks who come to the community not intending to become a part of the community.
That's right.
Right? So can you talk a little bit more about what does it take? What are the behaviors that you see leaders who, let's say, have the intent, but don't have the how, right? What would be 2 to 3 things that you would say if a leader was like, all right, I'm down to join. What do you coach your students to do, right? So on and so forth.
Well, you mentioned earlier on being authentic, and, you know, you still have to be yourself, right? You know, and I appreciate a lot of leaders who try to be an ally or they try to join, and it doesn't feel right. It feels performative a little
Yes.
bit. And so I've been watching The Bear.
Yes, love the bear.
Did you see the last?
Yeah.
Oh, this could be a spoiler alert, so I won't kind of go into it. But there's a part where the chef that's trying to get Sydney to come,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and she's like, "Oh, I'm just getting my hair done."
Found it.
And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw that. I read that book about black hair." And then he just kind of like listing all these credentials, and she's like, "Oh, okay, great, thanks for signaling." So you still have to be yourself.
Yes.
And I think if you're genuinely yourself, that works.
Yeah.
And having a little bit of self-reflection that, again, I go to, how do you just really slow down the tape that's playing in your mind in terms of a priority? And how do we prioritize the relationship?
Yeah.
You talked about our work, and I know you and your family are from Louisiana.
That's right.
And in New Orleans, there's a bookstore called the Community Book Center in the Tremaine neighborhood. And Vera Williams and Jennifer Turner, Mama J, they've been kind of community wisdom holders and educating us for many years. She developed this relationship with a good friend, Stephen Danley, who's a professor at Rutgers, but he played basketball. They met when he was just finished being a basketball player at Penn. He's like 6'5", tall, skinny white guy, hanging out in Black owned book center. They're like family.
Yeah.
He didn't try to be like anybody else. And he couldn't like small up, as they say in Jamaica. Small up. He stuck out.
Yes.
What did he do? He just, and Jennifer says, when he first walked in, "Well, you're a tall drink of water." And he would just come in, and he was a devout listener. Just a devout listener. So I think that works. That's in play. What you co-create, and that's another kind of skill set. How do we truly co-create? Even if something has worked, right? How do you still sit there and listen? And maybe you're right. Because it happens to me. I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. But I still let it air out.
Yes.
It's okay to fail.
Yes.
Right. So this idea of also being failure is okay.
Yes.
And kind of that deep listening, is in play. Time is still, it's slow work. It is slow work. So you have to factor in that, especially in a time where it's all about optimization and results quick. Community engagement work is not optimized work.
And where efficiency comes to mind, right? Can we build an efficient, cohesive relationship? It's like, no, that's not how that goes.
Reuben Mitchell, Reuben Mitchell, what did he used to say? He used to say, and Reuben is a old dear friend and colleague of Stephen and myself.
Yes.
And he would say, you pay up front, you pay later.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So you pay up front.
That's right.
Sometimes it's 7 o'clock. It's Thursday night. But you called me. So I'm going to come out to this community meeting, and I'm going to just be there.
Yeah.
We could have done it over the phone.
Yeah.
We could have done it on Zoom, but I'm going to show up anyway.
Yeah.
You pay up front. And now using modern language, we're optimized now.
Yes.
Right? Jennifer called me. She knows I'll be on the next plane to New Orleans. We got an endowment from funders funding these projects, recognizing the community. So there are some of those long-lasting benefits that lift it up.
Fear and perfection.
Man.
Talk about leaders need to balance those. How do you balance those?
So hard.
Yeah.
Fear and perfection, the roots of anxiety. My gosh, and stress.
Yes.
And we all lived it during quarantine. It's like your computer. It's dark, but it's not fully asleep. That's it. Like that low grade, your sympathetic nervous system always kind of on. And so, no, I had to learn all of those things. Well, let's go with perfection first. That's something I work on.
Okay.
And that's part of my overthinking. It's just this idea of, you I was just this kid, man, who joined the military. I don't know how I got picked.
Yes.
And then I just keep getting platforms.
Yes.
So early in my career, I was like, oh my God, I'm really going to get found out. And, we didn't have all these, some of the benefits of today's technology is you have a lot of ways to get affirmation that you're not alone, but we didn't have that, especially in those traditional roles. So in addition, what was it? Somebody said, the beauty is you don't have to worry alone. Well, I worried alone all the time because I felt like I was alone. So, that is just, it feeds itself fear and perfectionism. Because then it's like, I could never get anything wrong, ever. I mean, what a way to live. And especially, again, it's counterintuitive because the way, for me, perfection showed up was the more I achieve externally, the more I was visible.
Yes.
I could never go backwards. I could never. So fear, they're like best friends, right?
That's right.
These are just voices. Fear is like, right, you can't go backwards. In addition to that, you better not be collaborative, right? You only bring projects to the table that you have perfectly vetted, and it's that cycle.
Absolutely.
You
bring up the most people think of failure,
right?
But there's an equal, if not greater, fear of success.
Yes.
Right? That, as you said, if I do this well and it gets me more exposure, responsibility,
yes,
then I've got to believe that I can do well here.
Right.
As well. Right?
Yeah.
And so this idea of that fear of success hits equally, if not for some people, greater. Because to your point, it feeds into then I've got to be, I know I wasn't perfect here, then what does perfection look like here?
Right.
Right?
No, absolutely. Yeah. So you're working against your own growth and your own best interest.
Yes.
Now, there is a world of leadership, the narcissistic leaders who, they can just keep going.
Yes.
And will always accept any invitation to speak.
Yes.
Or to be at something like this, right? 30-year-old Chris probably wouldn't do this.
That's so good.
This is so public. You can see it. But the beauty of those voices never go away.
That's right.
The perfectionistic side, the fear. And Jennifer Turner, Mama J from New Orleans, she'll always say, at some point you move from being clever to having wisdom.
Yes.
And being clever for me always showed up. I love humor, and but I would use that as a shield, right? And the more wisdom that I learned from others allowed me to say, oh, I don't have to white knuckle my leadership. I don't have to white knuckle it. I mean, it's such and it's also physiologically unhealthy to always have these traits. And again, I still have them every day.
Yeah.
I just have other tools now. I breathe.
Yes.
I'm grateful. I have a movement practice. You try to be mindful. You're putting out good energy. And so it's allowed me to tell those voices like, look, driving the bus today.
Yeah.
You all the passengers. That's why I love those cartoons or the 2 animated films.
Inside Out. Yes, and Inside Out too. Yes, loved it.
It's so on point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is so good because you said be normal earlier.
Yeah.
And I think about how it's almost like getting to a place where a leader likes themselves enough to be normal.
Yes.
Versus if I focus on the parts of myself that I don't like, then being normal presents a potential threat of failure.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm doing this stuff in my head, self-talk, right? And I'm listening for the parts of myself that I give or others give that negative feedback, right? And so, and to me, it connects to then not having to be perfect, connected to being normal. Does that make sense?
It does.
Uh-huh.
So, Michael Gervais is a psychologist, and he talks about FOPO, fear of other people's opinions. And one of the strategies and techniques is to be purpose-oriented versus perfection or performance-oriented. Because performance and achievement orientation, it achieves results, but he calls it, it's cold and it's metallic, whereas purpose-driven work is, much more warm and open and connected. And that really has been the antidote, right? It's this idea of giving. So even for myself, like, of course, I'm going to have some nerves coming here. This is very vulnerable, right, to share this, but, we have the blessing of time and experience and wisdom. Like, I still got a job.
Yeah.
It's at this point, I couldn't have faked out all these really smart people for all these years.
Yes.
So what I could bring to the table my purpose, and maybe my purpose is good.
That's good.
And that has been the gift.
Yeah.
That's the gift. So I will say that. I'll say, what's my purpose today? How can I give? Fear and perfection, it wants to take, because it just wants to keep you comfortable.
Yeah.
It just wants to, for me, just keep you comfortable. I don't want to do this. I'd rather do something else.
That's right.
That's the fear and the taking side. Scott Schonenstein talks about stretching versus chasing. And the chasing is, and I did that for a lot of years. And so I think one of the ways I'm trying to give back to the team that I'm lucky to work with is this idea of, like, look, you've arrived. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Just last week, no joke, a great team. And a segment of the team has been working lots of hours. So I was just noticing it, just kind of watching it, and actually seeing the tapes play of how I try to overfunction.
Yes.
And hearing, yes, I know you got a lot going on and all of those things. And so these are real things that I'm working, like this is not just abstract reflection.
Right.
Like just the other day, I'm sitting down with the team saying, okay, how do we recognize this is a marathon?
Yes.
You're just in mile 9 right now. You're not going to make it to mile 15. Right. So yeah, those are all the ways that I'm trying to think about what I can leave.
Yeah.
Whether it's in my work world or my family world, or,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Talk a little bit about, I'm thinking about the leader who has a level of power, right? And you mentioned kind of what I heard as, how do I wield this power responsibly to the benefit of the collective, right? What are some things that you've learned, that you've seen, and that you would kind of coach folks who are in leadership positions that give them a level of power and influence, right? What are some ways that you have and do kind of take action to create more belonging, more fairness, greater distribution, if you will, right? And I'm thinking even an environment where people can be normal, not have to be perfect. So on. I know it's a long question, but yeah.
I love that question. It's important to reflect on. Well, there's two thoughts I have about it. One is like the disposition and kind of like the traits.
Okay.
And then I'll also talk about, well, then what are some specific actions you could take to platform folks?
Yep.
So the disposition, to me, I'm drawn to servant leaders and happen to work with a lot of servant leaders, fortunate at the university, including our president. And the servant leader doesn't view their role as an entitled position. They view their power as collective, and they see themselves as stewards.
Nice.
So you don't own it. It's not yours. It's not mine, even if I've been there a long time.
Mm.
So having, and Native and indigenous communities feel that they're stewards.
Yes.
And so when you have a steward mentality, you are just a caretaker,
Mm.
and that feels different because then, again, I'm going to the accessibility idea
Yeah.
of leadership and the role that type of disposition has. Because then, I've seen one servant leader who has the title. So when you are fortunate to have that approach, the title, a budget,
Yep.
influence, wielding those things, I mean, you can move mountains, And then similarly, when servant leaders take a coaching approach to really lifting up other forms of leadership, even when that form of leadership figuratively bites the hand that feeds you, can't be afraid of that. So can't be defensive.
And
I'm saying that as self-talk for myself. I get that way. And that's the ego.
Yes.
There are times, I'll say, oh, this is the ego showing up. Let it say its thing.
Yes.
We got to box it up. The ego shows up like this. Well, that's my idea. What do you mean you're just thinking of this? And this happened to me recently on a couple of things. It's like, wait, I was talking about that last year.
Yes.
All right, that's the ego. Let it air out. What's the servant leader going to say? Good idea.
That's
right. Everybody wins. So that servant leader who has a coaching approach, who says, I know you've only been here 2 years. What do you need? Like, what do you need? Let's go have coffee or tea. And let me share, I was very appreciative to have doors open for me. But it was so hard when you're a perfectionist and you have fear talking to you because you're like, I don't want to let folks down.
yes.
I would have loved a servant leader or a coach in my late 20s say, it's okay, man, you're going to F up. You've already arrived. You don't got to be perfect.
Yes.
Because you don't make good decisions when you're worried. We know that, right? That's just a fact.
That's right. That's right. That's so good. Now, you recently, we were talking a little bit before the episode about you made a move to elevate the position of your team members. Talk a little bit about
Yeah, well, careers in academia, sometimes folks stay in their positions a long time. Right, myself included, I've been there over 2 decades. So, you're not trying to elevate I have come to find, to achieve a title. It's not a traditional, say, corporate sector where it's like, you start off here and then you want to be middle management and one day you want to become a VP and all of those other things, which still could take a long time, kind of in that context. But in academia, even more so. I mean, you have professors who are in their 70s and 80s, right? It's the beauty of our field because our work is about knowledge
Yes.
and wisdom and sharing. So, and folks love that environment. I do too. So how do we still elevate the interest of people just getting into the field who want a path in academia or feel like this is a place I want to be? And I found that, okay, well, as you grow in the field, how do we make sure that you also have a description of your work that's adequate? Yes, you have to still fall in line with, the human resource for equity purposes, right? Certain folks get to certain levels and we want to respect that. And, there's no playbook for some things. We have somebody who was doing work supporting students who come from different walks of life, different lived experience, who want to do public service, because that is my work, is that my role is how can students and faculty get involved in all these community-based issues and, how to use the human and social capital of a university in relationship with community-identified needs. And so he was doing amazing work working with justice impacted students who are getting into education and working with students from all walks of life. And he had great ideas, but his ceiling, right?
Yes.
Everyone's waiting for me to retire. I got kids in college, so sorry. But, and it was like, let's get creative. So we were able to make him a senior director of student social mobility. Got the title.
Yes.
You can have that for a long time.
Yes.
He has the platform, and he was able to actually, feel like his passion and his strengths, as Parker Palmer says, is really kind of meeting the needs of the world. And so, when you do that for folks, people will stick around for a long time.
Yeah. I had a flash as you were describing this of the circle connection to I see you,
Yes,
right?
that's exactly what it is.
I see your value.
Right,
I see your work. I see your impact.
right.
And the move then becomes, because so many people in so many different types of organizations, community, corporate, nonprofits, academia, go unseen or feel like they're not seen, feel like their values and the value of their contributions are not acknowledged. And as you were talking, I was like, oh snap, that's the I see you in action. Yeah.
It is. It's kind of like the superpower question.
Yes, yes.
And I think this is where, if you let the fear and perfectionism side go down,
That's
and you let the ego chill out in the corner,
Mm.
and really, for me, again, trying to embody what it means to be a steward of the work, it does not become a zero-sum game about if you achieve, I suffer.
And
It's collectively,
and
this is how we fulfill a kind of a purpose-driven life.
it's proud. Ladies and gentlemen, it's clear that Chris Nayve and I continue this conversation for hours. I can't believe it's an hour.
Wow. Nice.
This has been an amazing conversation. You brought up superpower. What's your superpower?
Yeah, I think it's just this idea, superpower also has kryptonite, right?
Right.
It's that kryptonite of feeling unseen. And I think my superpower is just having this deep commitment while I'm still on earth
Yeah.
to hear folks and connect people to what they're most excited about, right? And giving and supporting their path towards that. So it's beyond kind of my title or what one would think is my role in higher ed. It really is about lifing.
Yeah. And that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you all for staying connected, engaged throughout this entire episode. Thank you very, very much. I'm just so excited to be able to continue to bring you episodes of the Leadership Secret podcast, where we get a chance to sit down with top leaders like Chris Nayve, who are willing to open up their leadership journey and share the lessons learned. We heard a lot of wisdom gained today, and the transformational moments from the 17-year-old to the leader sitting before us today. Thank you very, very much, Chris, for being with us.
Dr. Jones, pleasure. Thank you so much.
So please like, subscribe, and comment on our YouTube channel. We are committed to bring episodes to you that support the effectiveness and growth of your leadership journey. Thank you all very much. We'll see you.